to be that girl. I'm just talking to myself about how I wish I could like vocal fry. You know what I mean? Like I wish that were me. Anyway, hi, hello, welcome. I am not telling you what we're doing today because we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna get right into it. So before we get into it, though, I wouldn't be me if I were whatever. If you live in the Midwest of the U.S., happy corn sweat season. Apparently, um, it's like a heat wave today into tomorrow, if not beyond. And excuse me, I guess it's because of corn sweat. There's a lot of corn in the Midwest, especially where I'm from. Um, and I guess it all loses like so much water that it makes it like super humid and it makes it difficult for sweat to evaporate. So, without evaporative cooling, it's a lot easier to overheat. And so thus, heat advisories. So I was like, oh, I have corn in the sweat lodge and the mystical shaman oracle card. So before I get started with the thing I'm doing today, why not do that? So, oh look, there's the sweat lodge right there with the upper world. Um, so before the sweat lodge is going to be water loss from the corn. After the sweat lodge is going to be um, what we can't release because it's already so humid. So before I went live, I had that I need a hero stuck in my head. It just like popped into my head. And then as I was like finishing setting up, um, that one Coldplay song, I guess it's Viva La Vida. I've never known the title of it. But then when I was looking at the lyrics, I was like, oh, interesting. One of them singing about how he used to be king and like all of this stuff when he ruled the world. The other one singing about how like she needs a hero. I feel like God King is a phrase I've been hearing a lot lately, especially because of the audiobook. All right, let's go. We have Taming the Wind, the Middle World, and the Beloved as the bottom three. I'm looking for the Corn and Sweat Lodge. Before the before the Corn is Earth, which is appropriate. Cool. After Corn is the Mystical Shaman. Earth and the Mystical Shaman, it gives conversation, right? Because Earth is the Earth and the Mystical Shaman is the Mystical Shaman, which is like connected to the Earth. Interesting. Before the Sweat Lodge is the Moon. After the Sweat Lodge is the Beauty Way. And then we have the Time Master after the Beauty Way, and Thunder is before the Moon. Who do we have after? There was an interesting card after Mystical Shaman. I almost mentioned it, but I was like, we'll just keep going. I don't remember. Hold up. Hold up. The Wild Woman. That's what it was. Wild Woman was after Mystical Shaman. Time Master is after Beauty Way. Cool. So, the Earth and the Moon. Before Corn and the Mystical Shaman are before corn and the sweat lodge, mystical shaman and the beauty way after. So the moon is what's being released. That's the water being released. And because of that, we can't release the beauty way. I guess as like really quick low hanging fruit. And it's interesting because we have a new moon coming up. It's almost like the ethers are saturated. I don't know if it's possible. Here's another thing where I'm like, should that even be possible? Because like energy isn't necessarily finite. So like, but yeah, because Earth and the moon, it's like the Earth, the atmosphere is energetically saturated. And because of that, it makes it difficult to manifest new things, especially it feels like, at least in the way that I process how I hear manifestation spoken about generally. Because it's like these things that we put into the universe, these intentions, these affirmations, these whatever. We do something to put something out into the world at large for it to then manifest and then be brought into our lives. But it's like the ethers are oversaturated. And so even if we wanted to manifest or release, if even if we wanted to like manifest, or even if we are manifesting something, it's almost like it's not evaporating off of the body. Which is also interesting because I know like when you burn incense and maybe when you smoke tobacco, I know for sure it's like incense. When you burn certain incense or other things, it's believed that the smoke carries your intentions, your desires, your well wishes. Like if it's for ancestors and stuff like that, the smoke carries it to the heavens. My initial impression of this, though, was that like the mystical shaman is doing some kind of transmutation of something, but when it's transmuted, it's like released. It's released as the beauty way. Like this is the lotus from the mud, and that's something that lived within the lotus to transcend into the upper world. We saw the upper world with the sweat lodge at first, um, but because it can't be released, I don't know if the mystical shaman is stuck holding it. That might depend on how the mystical shaman transmutes energy. If the mystical shaman transmutes energy internally, then it will be transmuted internally, and the beauty way will be like stored within the body of the mystical shaman. If the mystical shaman relies upon divine intervention or divine co-interference, because I can't think of another word right now, then the mystical shaman is going to be holding on to part of this because again it's like the ethers are saturated. And I mentioned it's interesting because we have a new moon coming up, because like usually you manifest on a new moon, question mark, you put intentions out. I don't know, it's just like this would be the time where like you do it, but the earth, the corn, is like en masse doing the same thing, and it's out competing people. I mean, it's not like every new moon comes with corn sweat. It's not like this is a like a permanent sort of whatever. Like there are plenty of times where you can walk outside and sweat, and it's not heat advisory. Anyway, interesting. Again, I don't know. I feel like this goes against how I would think of it typically, because like the ethers aren't limited. But if you think of ether as space, the entirety of space, and the physical. as the planets in space, partially the moons, and question mark the suns. It's like there's a certain amount of space around the Earth. So there's like an envelope, I guess, of spiritual, energetic, etheric energy. And that is saturated. So like nothing else can be put out until it's like dispersed throughout the cosmos, until the relative concentration goes down. Another thing would be, and it's the mystical shaman though, because it's the mystical shaman, there's also an energy of like people who are able to cut through the noise, which kind of tends more towards the whole like if the mystical shaman can transmute something internally, then it doesn't take up external etheric, energetic volume, space, occupancy. So that mystical shaman would be relatively unaffected. And I say that because there was some impression that I got, and now I forgot. With the envelope of space, I don't remember. Oh well. Who do we have? Taming the Wind, Middle World, and the Beloved. 55, 36, and 5. 5595. The 9 drops out. So it's like a 555 energy, but there's a hidden 9 in there. And depending on where the 9 is, if we treat the 9 like a 0, depending on where it is, it changes the value of the number. Right? Like there's a huge difference between 110 and 10011. Right? And since we don't, it's fine. I guess I'm shuffling this. That's the only thing I wanted to use it for. So I guess there's no point in keeping other cards here. What I wanted to do, I haven't used the Energy Oracle cards in a while. And for like the past week or so, maybe, I've been really wanting to use them. There's the circle again. I've been wanting to use them. Oh, the circle with the blade and the heart of the sky. Both the heart of the sky and the blade are 6s. Interesting. The circle, the blade, the heart of the sky. Having the circle with the blade right behind it, and even like this circle behind the blade, it's like cutting it. Interesting. Um, where's this box? Here it is. I really wish I could remember, but it doesn't matter. The point I remembered, the how I arrived there, I forgot. It was some kind of mental imagery. So I've been wanting to use the Energy Oracle cards for a minute. Haven't known why. I got all the cards out and I shuffled all of them before I went live today. Should I timestamp that? Yeah, sure. Why not? Real quick. Kirsty, how art thou? I was just thinking about you. Corn sweats. Playing, I'll say 1435. Cool. All right. It's Leo season now. So I'm going to do something that maybe I've done at some point. Honestly, I don't know. I'm going to pull, I'm going to get, should I get from the top of the deck? Sure. Today is the 23rd. That's five. So I'll do like five shuffles and I'll split it into seven piles because it's July the 7th month. And I'm going to start with Earth. I'm going to basically get an energy oracle card for Mars, the Earth, the Moon, Venus, Mercury, and the Sun. And then I'm going to pull before, since we're at the top of Leo season, the corresponding number in another, like in an oracle deck. So for Mars, I'm using the well-known alchemy because Mars is a planet of action. Alchemy is something that you do. For Venus, I'm going to use the wild unknown archetypes because, Venus, love, whatever. Archetypes is like a archetype of a person, not an entire persona, but a piece of it. For the moon, I'm going to use the In Dream Oracle. For Mercury, I'm going to use the Whispers of Lord Ganesha because Mercury was a little tough. But it's about communication and whispers. It's communication. And then for the Sun, I'm going to pull before and after the corresponding number in the Mirror Truth Lenormand because of an implication of like clarity, right? And it's the Sun. So, and then Earth isn't going to have any clarification because that's where we are, right? I was going to do this when I initially thought of it. I was going to do it with the Sun, sort of like based around the Sun, but we're on Earth and our perspective and experience is centered around Earth. And it just made more sense because we are where we are, right? So that was 2, 3, 4, 5. How am I going to get 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When I shuffle like this or when I cut like this, sometimes I'm like, how much does it matter? Because each pile is more than the number of cards I'm going to pull. So the only one that's like really important is the first one that I pick up. All right. So starting with Earth, we have Goddess of the Moon, which is interesting because the moon that came out around the Sweat Lodge. Oh, snap, Sandra, how's it going? How are you? Earth is the goddess of the moon. Mars is adjacent possibilities. There's 24. 24 was the heart of the sky. The heart of the sky that is the same number as the blade, and Mars is the warrior. So if anyone's holding the blade, it would be Mars. Interesting. For the moon, we have the sun. Okay. Which I kind of love because, again, the sun implies a certain clarity. And the moon implies like things that are hidden, right? So it's like we're seeing those things. For Venus, we have the temple path. For Mercury, we have anxiety. And for the sun, we have Angel of Balance. Angel of Balance is interesting for the sun in Leo. Sun in Virgo, sun in Libra, because Libra is the scales, like all of that, like, you know. And I feel like Leo has a balance. Well, I take it back. Because if Leo is ruled by the sun, if we treat Leo as the sun, then technically it's all about balance and it's the most important balance that there is because it keeps the planets orbiting where they are, right? If we were any closer to the sun, we would burn, and if we were further, we would freeze. There would be a whole It's not Phaeton. I'm pretty sure it's not Phaeton. Is it Phaeton? What does this word mean? So I accidentally put Pharaon, Phaeron, instead of Phaeton. And apparently, in Warhammer 40,000's Necron lore, a Pharaon is the supreme ruler of a Necron dynasty, holding a position of immense power and authority, which is interesting for the whole like Viva la Vida, I need a hero. Because here's a supreme ruler of a dynasty with immense power and authority. They are essentially the highest ranking Necron overlords, often leading entire dynasties and wielding significant influence over their respective realms. Cool. Interesting. Not the word I was looking for, though. Phaeton. What? This. This. Oh, okay. I was like, this isn't. This is less than helpful. Phaeton mythology. Oh, crap. Oh, wait, that was it. That was it. Maybe. Horse drawn carriage. The sun. Yeah, yeah, it is Phaeton. Okay. I had it right. It gives a certain Phaeton energy. The son of Helios, who out of a desire to have his parentage confirmed, travels to the sun god's palace in the east. He is recognized by his father and asks for the privilege of driving his chariot for a single day. And then he drives it too far, he drives it too close, everything falls apart. Hey Brian, how you doing? Um it was Phaeton. Cool. Which is also interesting in the whole like I need a hero Viva La Vida because Phaeton had the lineage but not the power. Phaeton was young. Maybe he would have gotten the power in time. Bottom of the deck is Victory, which I love for Leo season. Cool. So let's get right into it. I've already shuffled these, so I'm just going to give them a shuffle and a cut. I'm going to pull. Oh, well, we'll see. I'm looking before number 24. I'm going to pull from the bottom of the deck Lead, Chaos, and the New Pearl are the bottom three cards. I'll timestamp these by planet. Why not? Because I may try to break it down as I read it. Ooh, I love being live on, on my laptop. All right. Lead and Chaos is an interesting combination. Lead with Saturn almost implies a certain balance, but in Chaos, that balance has been significantly skewed. You could almost the balance between like white and black here would be closer if it were all on like a single side of the card like this. I mean, it still looks like it's predominantly, you know, black rather than this. I'm not surprised to see it with Saturn though, because of how we treat Saturn. This is interesting. because this brings to mind, you could say, like some shadowy overlord, people behind the scenes that manipulate events. This like spider web over here makes me think of the Pluto card and how Pluto was like clearing the spider webs. Also, with the power of the Necron, it did bring that certain undeniable power of Pluto because we keep seeing Pluto. It brought that to mind. But amidst the chaos, it's possible to get this new pearl. And the new pearl is interesting because of the last life with the otter, the stone, and the oyster. The otter breaks the clam, breaks the oyster, and gets the new pearl. This was years ago, maybe 2020. There was the energy of those who navigate out of the forest before the fog lifts will find themselves in a space of mastery. Here's the forest. Those are the ones who escaped, the ones who hold these pearls. I'm not surprised to see Saturn here. Or it's not even Saturn, it's the metal of Saturn. I'm not surprised to see that here though, because like that's Saturn's whole vibe. This is to clarify Mars, and Mars came out as adjacent possibilities. Because these possibilities are adjacent, something it's like not necessarily you get out of it what you put into it, but it's almost like the smallest change can completely shift a trajectory. It's like if you've seen a Groundhog's Day type episode of a TV show or movie. Well, usually, I mean, at the end of the day, the same thing happens and that's how they get stuck. So maybe it's not that. I mean, it kind of is because they'll change like one minor detail and the whole day will be different, but the end will still be the same. It's less that repeating, but it's more that like when you can see that a small change has like a drastic difference in how things play out. Now, this chaos, this makes me think of the moon again and the energetic oversaturation. Like Earth is etherically saturated right now, according to the cards. So it may be difficult to cut through the noise. And lead is the most base metal. But speaking of, I've never said base metal and like had like heavy metal in my head before. Maybe R.I.P. Ozzy Osbourne. Maybe that's why it's on my mind. But lead is the thing that you turn into gold. We saw something similar on the third eye of the warrior, and that was in the Wado known um, archetypes. So that was when we were looking for the stone. But there it was a diamond that was encircled by gold. Here it's a pearl. Interesting. And it's number 44. Cool. But we're looking for number 24. So XXIV. Oof. XXXIV. I guess I could look for IV. Probably should have set those. 24 is Quicksilver. Before Quicksilver is Mercury. Or Uranus. Quicksilver is Mercury. It's associated with Mercury. Uranus is in Gemini, so it will be sextiling the sun for the first few days of Leo season. That exact sextile is already happened or happening. I am gonna set these three aside because I feel like I might have to reference them. Before Uranus is Hyros Gamos, and before Hyros Gamos is Saturn. So again, there's something about like seeing through the confusion to get that new pearl. Hyros Gamos is interesting because it's like it finds this point of inversion. And it could be this, it could be that inversion that's causing the chaos. And that could be why it's sort of, it seems like it's predominantly black. It's almost like if you were to take this on the inside and kind of spin it so that as you go through it, it would mostly be the same rather than being able to see it as like two completely different things. Um, Subversion of expectation is low hanging fruit. It doesn't feel entirely accurate though. And it's not necessarily like finding out that everything you know was a lie, but it may have been the what was on the side of the oyster under the Ace of Wands. I think was the last time we saw that energy of like a truth that is something that is like so true that it causes everything else to be questioned. And this confusion, massive confusion, chaos, is a difficulty or inability to consolidate truths or to incorporate a larger truth. That energy with Uranus, especially, the planet of like shaking things up and burning things to the ground if they need be, the planet of like revolution. Even they mentioned that in the song, right? In Viva La Vida, something about revolutionaries. People couldn't believe what I'd become. Revolutionaries wait for my head on a silver plate. Just a puppet on a lonely string, all who would ever want to be king. And then we have the metal of Mercury. So I guess I'll go to Mercury next. And Mercury is anxiety. So again, the confusion, the anxiety. Maybe this was it. There was an energy that came out. I feel like a few times it was mentioned in different ways. Um, it was something. First, it was like I feel like it was like the Queen of something, the Knight of Swords, and something else. And it was like, before you do something, wait. Like something is about to happen. You're about to come into some kind of information, like something that's going to highlight, reveal, illuminate something, or something that will be significant, important enough for you to change your trajectory. So before you act based upon what you currently know, just know that, like, and it was that whole energy of like, can't give specifics, can't like give any details, but like you may, I strongly suggest that you wait. And then we saw the energy of, it was like, if you have a bill that's like let's say like your rent is due, metaphorically, and you're like, you don't know how you're going to pay it and you're about to be out, and you get a blank check, or someone's like, hey, what do you need? And you're like, I need $100. Take it as it resonates, if it resonates, and not apply it with a grain of salt, but there's like a fine balance, and the angel of balance is here. It's like you could ask for more. It was something about the immediate circumstances causing us to limit our vision because of how pressing it is. But like, let's say someone's like, hey, you can claim up to $100,000. You don't have to pay it back. It's like a gift. It's a gift to you because I love you and I want you to be okay. But it's like the immediacy of like the threat of eviction getting us to go like, oh, $100, like only $100. That's all I need. And then of course, like you pay it off. Something else comes up, or you get to thinking, now that you're not under that stress and you're like thinking more generally and not specifically, you're like, oh, well, like there's this other thing and this other thing that I could have used that for. And it's not greed, it's not taking advantage of someone's kindness. It's like what you're asking for, what you can ask for, and what you can receive. And that also tied back to, it was another reading. As I'm getting the connections, I'm like losing them, because when they came out, I didn't necessarily see the connections, but as I was kind of thinking about it, then I was like, oh, like it's like a manifestation of this energy, or this is one way that that could play out. It was love. It was the alchemy and circumventing the alchemy, and it was that like, um, kind of sort of like, this is my recollection of it. It was like you, almost like you get more bang for your buck when you do things out of love. And I'm just gonna say it like that without going into all of the whatevers. Um, because it's a generative feeling, right? What is something that you get more of the more you give? Love. Versus, it's like the immediacy of like, this is what I need right now. It's kind of not generative, restrictive, I guess, because it, like it cuts away everything else and it gets right to like this exactly. It limits its own capacity to receive. And maybe that plays into the, that, like a confluence of things plays into the saturation. Let's read Uranus, shall we? Because why not? I have this other app. It's not Time Nomad, but it'll tell me where the planets are. Look at me almost getting back into astrology. Charts. Current planets. The sun is 1 degree 11 minutes Leo, and Uranus is 0 degrees 39 minutes Gemini. So yeah, that like exact sextile. Cool. It's like within a degree still, it's going to be weakening again because the sun is always direct. And I'm pretty sure Uranus retrogrades at some point that I don't know. Adjacent possibilities in Uranus. I also love that this is possibilities because that's like a sextile. A sextile is an opportunity or a possibility. It's not as guaranteed as a trine. Also, we have this glyph of Uranus, which combines Mars and the Sun. Because it's Mars and the Sun, it's like seeing the efforts of your actions. And maybe with an active component, it makes it easier to cut through the noise. It's almost like action and aligned action, especially, bumps up your request in the queue of, again, an energetically saturated time. What else is there about Uranus? Do I really want to read this card? Not necessarily. Gemini, Uranus isn't Gemini. Gemini is the twins. I just saw something about twins. There's this show about a pair of twins who I watched like shorts on YouTube from the show. I haven't seen the actual show, so from what I understand, there are these two twin orphans who struggle to be adopted. And so I guess they figured that if there were only one of them, it would be easier because it's only one mouth to feed and stuff like that. And so they come up with these like really clever ways to switch places and not be noticed. And they live their lives for however long they live them with this new family who's like loving and amazing. And when Christmas comes, they wake up and there's two presents and they're like, why did they split the presents? And then the parents are basically like, we know. Like, they were like, did you think that like y'all would come here and we wouldn't be able to tell like the difference between you two? And maybe since they're, I guess like because they're so identical, because they're visually indistinguishable from each other, and their ruse and their scheme and their plot to survive, right? They didn't account for like maybe like personality differences and interests and stuff like that. Inherent talents, gifts, skills, abilities, right? Just because they look the same doesn't mean that like they're both able to throw a football or whatever. So because of that, there's something that goes beneath appearance or the goes beneath the facade. That's one thing that Uranus is going to do too. Uranus is going to cut through a facade, and one like with Mars being so much about like action as well. It's like either you can do the thing or you can't, right? You can't pretend like you know how to throw a football because we're already there. Either you can or you can't. Maybe you can and you don't know that you can, so that you're pretending like you can. and then you surprise yourself when you actually do like throw a perfect spiral or whatever. But again, it's like either you can it's there's a certain amount of substance to it because it's something that must be done, because it's not just about appearances. And maybe that in and of itself is causing a lot of confusion, because let's say there's something that has appeared to be a certain way at length. There's something that like marketed itself as whatever, and it has like a huge visual library of whatever, but when it comes to like their actions and what they actually do, or like what the product actually does, it doesn't do what it was marketed to do. Like it doesn't actually work. And for a while, the power of narrative and of um, confirmation bias and like placebo effects could like convince us that it's working, or convince us that it is as sold. But then it's like over time, it's like, okay, like something isn't actually working here. And then again, maybe it's depending on what the thing is, and depending on how long we've been swearing by it, and depending on how much we've evangelized it to other people, that could lead to like a bigger like oh my gosh, like this isn't whatever. And maybe the possibility is, or the degree of these adjacent possibilities is like how quickly, if ever, do we accept the truth that we now see, and what do we do with that, right? Because if there was an actual problem, let's say we accept the truth, but then do we remedy the problem, or do we go on like a crusade about how this thing isn't what it was supposed to be? But if that's all we do, and we never address the actual problem, then the problem is going to persist, and the outcome is theoretically going to be the same as if we were still operating under the illusion. Because either way, nothing changes. Either way, the problem remains unaddressed. It's about finding what's important to us and optimizing our efforts there. Cool. So, because this is Quicksilver, oh, no, that was Quicksilver, and Quicksilver leads me to Mercury, so we're going to go to Mercury next. Mercury, we're going to say 48. I think I just said it, but I love being live on my laptop. I love being able to edit the timestamps like in real time. Mercury is anxiety, is number 18. For Mercury, we're going to use the Whispers of Lord Ganesha. And again, we're pulling the card before. And also, like I always look at the top three and bottom three cards. And a cut. We have priorities, literally, just talking about that. Prosperity and revelation. Now, if I could reorder these, it could either be priorities, revelation, and then prosperity. Actually, it could be that, because we already know what our priorities are, and there's a revelation that happens that reveals if something aligns with our priorities or not, and then as we act upon that revelation, we come into prosperity. Or it could be revelation priorities. If we have a revelation first and then reassess our priorities because of the revelation, and then prosperity. Or we could take it the way it came out, where it's like priorities and prosperity, like there's something that we're prioritizing, and it brings abundance or it brings whatever. But then after we reach that prosperity, it causes us to think about what's like truly important. and then we reach a revelation, right? Like, let's say we get the prosperity, and it's like, okay, I can now, like, all of my wants are taken care of, my needs well met, and I have all of this extra abundance. Like, what do I do with it? And then maybe you come up with a philanthropic sort of mission, right? That gives you like revelation, new purpose, all kinds of stuff. Then you like your whole life changes, right? Looking for number 18. Before 18, I'm starting to sweat. I have the overhead light off to try to keep it as cool as I can in here. Ah. Oh, wow. It's the blank card, and it's blank on both sides. 18 is openness, and it has a moon on it. Not the moon and the blank card. With anxiety. Girl. Oof. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh goodness. Well, I don't know what to say about that. It is what it is. Before that is reflection. So again, with that like revelation and priorities, um excuse me. I mean, I feel like this one is like okay, maybe not. Um I almost wish I could like there are certain questions that'll like naturally come up as I'm pretty sure most readers do things. And sometimes you can pose the question and pull a card and hopefully get an answer. You know what? So there was the energy of etheric oversaturation or etheric saturation. I thought about that. Why did I think about that earlier? Maybe because of corn sweat, like the air being hypersaturated with water. It's also interesting because when the Drowned King came out in the pressure, so that was what, Saturn retrograde? When I was looking up if deep sea pressure affects dissolution, dissolving things. And the dissolving of gas is affected by the pressure of that gas in like the air, right? And water, as it evaporates, is gaseous water. So the pressure of water is so high in the air that like the liquid water that we would produce from sweat can't evaporate. So it's just like stuck because the pressure of gaseous water in the air is already so high. So the mystical shaman would need to overcome that pressure difference. And basically, within the aura energetic body of the mystical shaman, it would have to have more water pressure, energetic, ethereal, spiritual pressure than the saturated world around it for the water to willingly make that transition. Right? Most things travel from a higher concentration to a lower concentration, from a higher pressure to a lower pressure, from a higher concentration to lower concentration, from a higher pressure to a lower pressure. Maybe that's one of the ways that the mystical shaman can continue to operate, right? There was the internal transmutation, and that's just the energy of transmutation, like specifically, let alone all the other properties and functions of the etheric energetic system. But the thing that actually came to mind was currency with the Bloomborough booster pack. I couldn't remember where it was the like this the cash grab, I think was the name of the card, where it was like the acorns are both like currency and necessary for survival. And then I was like, I wonder if that's like true for people. And I was like, our electromagnetic field, you could say, because I don't know, I could imagine is important to the functioning of like the brain and stuff like that because it's electrical impulses, the heart and stuff like that. But if that also comprises like our vibration, and if we use our vibration as currency to manifest things and impact the world around us, then like there's a direct correlation to the ability of the body to function. And so as I'm like, what is like, because the etheric energetic saturation feels like it goes deeper than like it may be difficult to manifest right now, or you may feel like spirit's gone quiet or it's harder to connect or something like that, which I mean obviously I could see, but again it feels like it runs deeper. Technically, in this deck, because this card doesn't have a back on it at all, it's just like blank on both sides, I could not include it, but I like title cards and blank cards, so I do. Um, there are other decks that have blank cards, but the blank card will still have a card back, meaning like it's actually a part of the deck. And maybe because the 18 here is openness, and again, like we have the goddess of the moon as the position of Earth. And so, where is it? Mm, it was down here. It was close to the top. There it is. I don't necessarily love it, but you see how like the hand is up? Like he's sitting on the moon. The moon is about intuition and connection and stuff. He's like, not taking any questions, not taking any requests. Like this is such Two of Swords energy to me. Minor High Priestess, where logically it's difficult to make sense of anything one way or another. And so we have to, it's like, it's a space where our intuition and discernment would be the tiebreaker. But if spirit's quiet, then it makes it difficult. It could make it difficult. But I mean, I would assume that there are other means of communication. I also wonder if the earth is energetically saturated. See, okay. So the wonder, the question I just had, which is like why I glared at the camera a little bit, because I had a thought and I was like, because for it was like if communication is difficult because everything is saturated and the divine is like something is happening, there's a purpose, there's a reason, it's a cycle of earth, the corn needs to release, right? When's the next lunar eclipse? I don't know, but that's when the moon passes through the earth's shadow. So Anyway, it was almost there was a question if like other entities, energies could step in to like answer questions. It's almost like there's a communication blackout or someone's gone dark because they're on a plane or something, but their secretary or the channel that they use, like someone has hijacked it to keep responding, and then the person, like we would just assume that it's that person because they're the only ones that ever use that channel. So I was like, what is that like a thing? But then I think of like the tar pit monster in that one booster pack, the powers of earth and the jaguar. um Even recently something kind of sort of came out. I feel like it was in the better you better watch out. You better not pout, you better not cry, you better not shout. Um like something maybe taking advantage of the silence. And if we're not, and like it's the card of anxiety. Sometimes when we're anxious, whatever offers us assurance, relief, or solution, we may take it as fact because we're vulnerable. It could be something that preys on vulnerability. And when we're vulnerable, we're not necessarily thinking with all of our cognitive functions, which again is another spin on that whole like, if this is due right now, like this is all we're focused on. And so we ask for this to be met, and like maybe we don't necessarily look at the conditions of the whatever. But again, with Mars being about action, it's like we can say whatever, but if we can't do what we say that we can do, then that's an indicator of something in and of itself. But it goes beyond just actions as well, right? Now, this is the energy of, speaking of twins, of someone in like an evil doppelganger or just a doppelganger. They don't necessarily have to be evil, or a shapeshifter or whatever. And like someone's trying to find out the real one. And it's almost like somebody would never say something or never do anything or lead someone in a certain type of way because of who they are. And that's how we would be able to differentiate and discern, okay, like, is this the real whatever? Like, I saw a reel a few days ago of the situation, and the person was like, what is 8 times 6? And the fake one said 42. And he was like, and then, of course, like in the thing, he got shot. And they're like, whoa, but that was right. And he was like, yeah, but the real person does this, like the finger thing when they do math. And they were like counting on their fingers still. And then they're like 42. It's like behaviors. Even with the parents that were able to differentiate the kid, again, they were identical and they relied on that identicality, on that visual sameness to pass themselves off as the same person, but their interests were different and their personalities were different. And the parents, because they love these kids and they're paying attention, they notice. I think sometimes for us it can be easy to like blind ourselves to those things, you know, where we just like overlook like, oh well, like maybe it's this, or oh maybe it's that, or like we can excuse things for people or buy into excuses. And it isn't even necessarily like a people thing in particular, because again, we have priorities here. And priorities could be like, what's important for us in life. That could be related to career, it could be related to partnership, it could be related to hobbies and how you spend your free time, what you invest in, anything. And sometimes our priorities change as situations change or as we mature. And sometimes we have like legacy priorities where, like, oh, well, this was a priority before, or this is a priority that was given to me by someone else. So it continues to be a priority because it once was, or whatever. And maybe there's something that it's not giving anymore because although we honor it as a priority, it isn't truly for us, right? Like if we stopped caring, then we're not going to get the same amount of fulfillment in engaging with something. And it's like, why don't I enjoy this as much as I used to, or it's not as fulfilling as it used to be? Something's changed, and it's not always a bad thing. I also love that like Mercury was the one planet where I was like, what deck do I even pick for Mercury? And it came out with a blank card. So maybe it wasn't supposed to have one. And it is retrograde right now. I think it's the only personal planet that's retrograde. So maybe that's why. I don't know. All right, next let's move to Venus. I don't know why I ever expect for these to be any shorter than they are, but that's fine. 106:35. Venus is the temple path number 12. I don't even remember what the 12th archetype is. I want to say it's the judge. It may be, it may not be. Oop. Oh, there was the thing. That's what it was. It was the intentional for whoever the Ace of Wands was with that divine vessel. And I think it was maybe when the kindred souls, kindred spirits came out, there was a thing of like I Ching number 36, dark in the light. There was a whole thing about like not um revealing a certain truth yet. Like there's something that still needs to play out. So with the whole like taking advantage of like whatever being abandoned, it gives the energy of a setup to see who would try to take advantage in an apparent access, to see who would buy into it, to see what could be done. And you could say it's a way to gauge, it is kind of a way to gauge what people think about something and what they would be willing to do slash tolerate if given like the go ahead by that something, right? Because again, it's like at some point we should be able to discern the difference, and then it's like how far does that go? The kiss and Eros, but you see the moon on here because it's Eros with the kiss, it gives desire. It's like again, it's something that we really, really want. So we're willing to overlook all of those very clear indicators that things are not as they seem. I don't know. Christmas this year is for the good folk, and so don't ruin it. Let the pretenders keep pretending. And even with those cards, right? With the revelation, there are sometimes you get coal for Christmas, and you're still nice, or you still try to be nice. You still try to get on the nice list the next year. My number one fan. I don't know. If I ever have kids, I feel like they should be glad that I have no interest in being petty, because some of the antics. It's important. All right. Looking for number 12. We have the shaman at the bottom of the deck with the mystical shaman, the fault line, and the ring. The shaman, the fault line, and the ring. The shaman, the fault line, and the ring, lowest hanging fruit, it gives the energy of prophecy. Right? Like there's a prophecy, like something is going to happen one day, and the fault line appears, and everyone else is like, oh, it's just the crack, or they're like under or they're over or whatever. But to the shaman, it's not the fulfillment of a promise. It kind of sort of just like is what it is. It's the day that was prophesied long ago to come, and then it's the ring, right? Like it was promised. And so when the fault line appears, they kind of just sort of like know what it means. There's quick low hanging fruit. More Roman numerals. Cool. Love it. I know it's an aspect of the self, though. So a lot of these that are things or places, it's not that. Oops, 17. Almost. It's the king. It's the king. Are you serious? 12 is the king. Before the king is the tier. Is this, or is this not Viva La Vida? And under the king, I know we're not looking under, but the one is under the king. This is the hero that someone was looking for. The hero that used to rule the world. Before the tier is Anima Mundi. So we have both Anima Mundi and the one. Interesting. Shaman King? That's an anime. Look around you, look beyond. You can make an unbreakable bond. The world around you is not as it seems. Beyond your wildest dreams. So many things I never could see. So many choices falling on me. Could it be my destiny to be Shaman King? Now, the tier could be the tear. We kind of see both. I saw on social media, Instagram. It was an Instagram reel yesterday, I'm pretty sure, that said it was something like, if an angel approaches you and says, "Be not afraid, you should be afraid," because they said, like, canonically in the Bible, the angels, like, to most people, angels appeared in human form, but they only appeared in their true form before prophets. So if an angel is approaching you as a prophet, it comes with some kind of responsibility. They're not coming to you in their true form, giving you prophecy for, in the Bible, they weren't making like house calls in their true form, in forms that invoke fear from mortals to be like, hey, how's it going? Like, did you get my 222 message last week? Did you see those feathers that I dropped for you? Yeah, like everything is going to be fine. Don't worry about it. You know? I mean, if they were going to do that, I feel like, you can use human form. Um, but yeah, it was like they come with responsibility. That's why you should be afraid, because of the responsibility. That's what the post said. And then as I see like this eye in the middle of this whatever. Oh, it's not entirely the same. I was looking at the lines around the one and the lines around the eyeball. Even in Anima Mundi, there's like this star shaped void carved out of the colors, and there's stuff in the void, including an eyeball. Like this tear would be like a tear in the fabric of reality, or something approaching beyond the fabric of reality. But it's the tear, and there's some gold in that tear. Oh well, the temple path. The temple path being the temple path, it's like, who would not expect, I would say who would not expect prophecy when they walk the temple path, but I feel like a lot of people, it gives me like Disney's Hercules, when Hercules went to the temple of Zeus and Zeus like animated the statue and Hercules like had a crap attack. He was like, oh my gosh, right? Because you don't expect for the statue to come to life and for Zeus to be like, hey, right? I don't know what you expect. Maybe you expect like a knowing to settle into your spirit. Is that what happens? I wish I could ask my mom. I wish I could ask my number one fan. Is like, does knowing just like settle into your spirit? Or is it like, but this is around Venus. Is she in Leo? Maybe. I don't remember where none of the planets are. Venus is in Gemini. Okay. Excuse me. This is interesting though too, with again the energy of prophecy. Oh, I'll have the deck upside down. With the prophecy that was almost like encoded in these three cards. The fault line, the ring as a promise, the shaman as the shaman. I don't know what else to say about this. There's gold in the tier, right? For some reason, this feels like there's an energy of divine circumvention here. If the tier is one of like compassion, is one of like love. Um, but it's almost like sometimes it's in the things that we don't say. And times where there are things that we can't say. Sometimes what we don't say is more illuminating than what we do. But because of the gold and the tier, I don't know, it's almost like we could figure it out. Or we could take some comfort at the very least. Yeah, that's how I'm going to read that. There's another way to read this that is different. You could say because of free will, because our free will is respected, with choice there must be consequence. And depending on the choices made, sometimes consequence can't be averted. And but besides that, it's just like divine non-intervention. Because we have free will, there's only so much that the divine can do when it comes to the world that we live in, because we all make choices and decisions, and sometimes our choices and decisions affect other people. Now, we have our own. That's what I was thinking about. It was something like consensus reality, right? Because we co-create with the divine, but we also co-create our reality with one another, because our choices and decisions affect and impact others beyond just ourselves. So it was like we all have a bubble of our choices, energy, toroidal fields, ability to impact things. And it's like sometimes they overlap with other people because we are in communication with each other and one another, regardless of if we speak or not. And it's like there are certain aspects, it's like some parts of the bubble that when they overlap and align, they get like bigger and they become like this outer bubble. And then we are operating within the inner bubble. And the outer bubble at a certain point becomes consensus reality. But it feels like it's possible to tweak one's bubble in a way to navigate through consensus reality and have a different experience. Have a I don't want to say non consensual, but that's the only like to have a reality that doesn't necessarily abide by consensus reality. And it's like the pressure of the mystical shaman. If one's pressure is great enough, one's energetic, their spiritual pressure, one's energetic, ethereal, spiritual pressure is greater than that of external consensus reality, then it exerts effects on that rather than the opposite being true. Now, that came out a minute ago. And when it came out, I was like, what is this? Because it was like life puts pressure on us. But in a reading, someone was putting pressure on life. And because of that, like life was changing, the world was changing because somebody had that pressure. But the tear in the temple, it could be tears from the divine at not being able to do more because free will and choice are a thing, and Yeah, you know, how many people pray for salvation and the liberation that they get is death, if they even get that, you know. Oof. Well, let's not linger here. um, there's going to be different experiences in the temple. Some tears, some tears, some getting a don't be afraid, some getting compassion, some getting conversations, some getting those feelings. Girl, I don't know. If the tear is the tear, then there is thematic similarity to the fault line. Because you could say, like, that's a tear in the earth. There's a tear, there's a fault line or a tear between the mystical shaman and this ring. And both of them have like a spacey, cosmic kind of background. And 12 was the king. Excuse me, but this is a king that's associated with the temple path. It's a king associated with energy that goes beyond the mundane and the physical. This isn't a king that seeks to rule people. It's an energy of someone who's elevated to the status and position of king because of their temple pursuits, because they walk the temple path. And so cue like any thing where there's a king, like let's say someone's like, you're the king, you're meant to rule the people, and the king is like, I'm a king, I'm meant to like serve the people type energy. You know what I mean? And maybe the king has a successor, and the successor is like, I'm to rule over blah blah blah. And then everyone's like, oh, we missed the old king. When the old king ruled the world, girl, it was like golden age. It was golden era. We were all happy and thriving. This new king, they just wanted somebody to rule, somebody to somebody to be under them or something. Ew. They don't care about us. If they cared about us, we wouldn't be starving and paying these exorbitant taxes when the wheat isn't growing in the field and the livestock has been decimated and the locusts are swarming. The old king would have helped us. The new king makes more demands. Type energy. Now, do I go for the sun or the moon? Venus is in Gemini. Venus is in Gemini. Uranus is in Gemini. Venus and Gemini. Where's Mars? Mars is 21 degrees Virgo. Venus is 21 degrees Gemini. That's like an exact square. Interesting. I wasn't necessarily going to look at where the planets are when I did this, but of course I did. But Mars is clarified by Uranus, which is also in Gemini. It's almost giving me the energy of Hieros, especially in the imagery of it. Uh, that's. I wish I could like measure that angle. That's maybe like 75. Oh boy, if I do this, let's see. Oh, Saturn. Does this help? Kinda, sorta. I don't have a protractor. What is this angle? It's greater. It feels like it may be 60, maybe like 70. I was trying to see how close it was to a square. For it to be the square. Excuse me. But it's almost like that. Like two things approaching the same point from different angles. But this is giving more pincer than opposition. And if it's the tear, even Uranus, Uranus would be both the tear and the tear. Uranus would tear something and cause tears, you know? It feels like even in all of this, like Mercury is really the odd one out. Mars being adjacent possibilities, Earth, goddess of the moon, moon, the sun, Venus, the temple path, the sun, angel of balance, and then Mercury, anxiety. The tear in the temple. Again, it could be because of a lack of an ability to assuage anxieties, at least in the immediate. Again, it's that energy of like something needs to play out or something is playing out. I'll go for the in dream oracle next. We'll get the moon. So before number one, oh, let me timestamp it. Let me timestamp moon. The moon. Did you know that the moon has a name? And it's apparently Luna. The Earth is named Terra, and the Sun is named Sol, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson in a YouTube short that I saw weeks ago. Somebody was like, "Why doesn't our moon have a name? Like the moon of all of the other planets have names." And he was like, "It does have a name. Like the planets have Roman names, like Mars, Venus, Jupiter, the moon, Luna, the sun, Sol, the Earth, Terra." I was like, "Whoa, what?" Anyway, all right. Now these are just images at the bottom of the deck. We have 4, 6, and 8. Wow, 4, 6, 8. We have even numbers. The first one's after 2. Hold up. 4 is looking at 6. 6 is looking at 4. And then 8 is like, now kiss. How do I? There we go. Oof. The moon is the sun. The moon is the sun. Um, on a full moon, right? When is the moon the sun? You could say during an eclipse, but also on a moonlit night. The moon illuminates the night and it illuminates it with sunlight. Looking for one before number one. Since I'm looking before and not after, unless the card is at the bottom of the deck, there's always going to be a card before it. Before one is two, which is interesting. After one is 24. There's that 24 again. 24 is adjacent possibilities, which is Mars, which was Heart of the Sky. Now, I actually do have the book for this one. They're both playing instruments. I mean, you can clearly see like this piano accordion type thing and the harp on the other side. It's interesting that two comes before one. Oh, two! 2468. 2468. Crazy. 468 coming off the bottom three, and then one before it is two. The moon is the sun. The moon is clarified by the sun, which is again some kind of clarity. So to have this 2468 and the energy of clarity, but it's a two clarity. Two being the number of polarities, dualities, and the like. Again, it's like where Mercury is anxiety, the moon is giving clarity. Earth is the goddess of the moon. Communication goes beyond the verbal and the visual. You could say to a certain degree that empathy is a means of nonverbal communication. I mean, communication almost inherently goes both ways. I remember this one time. There was this Sagittarius that I worked with one summer. And that summer I had like just gotten into like I was getting into astrology because I had got on YouTube like a month or two before that. That year I was like doing the One Unknown Tarot and Animal Spirits. Um so I was like still new. And they were also like getting into astrology and stuff. So we talked about it. And I remember something happened. And we had like this whole conversation just like mentally because it was something that was like so awkward and I didn't know what to say. So I was just like looking at him like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. And he was looking at me like it's fine, it's what it is. And then afterwards I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so like I didn't know what to do. He was like, yeah, I could feel it. I could feel you. I was like, yeah, cause what? Nonverbal communication. You could say, I don't it's like telepathic, but like mutual empathic. Enter empathic communication. Because like we're both empathic. Right. This is like because of the piano and the sun. It's almost given like background music. 1 and 2 is 12, and we just saw 12 in Venus. It's given like background music. Speaking of nonverbal communication and non-visual communication, um, the audiographer, because I don't know what to call him, the sound tracker for like a movie or something, like you can score a scene, you can communicate through music, you can tell people how like they're supposed to feel about a certain thing, or like you can tell people um, if they should or shouldn't trust something by the music that plays. Like if you're playing a video game, when the music starts to play a certain thing, then you know like a boss fight is coming up. And when it's just a score, even if it has words, the music, um, it crosses language barriers. I am actually going to read this one. Excuse me. It's the play of fire. Let go of your biases. If you let your past go, it doesn't mean that your past will let you go. I feel like that is conflicting information. If you let your past go, it doesn't mean that your past will let you go. Why does that read like a threat? I mean, I guess in Venus, we were just talking about consequence. How, because of free will, actions must have consequences. If there were no consequence, it's like if 1 plus 1 equal 2 and 35 plus 47 equal 2 and 1,987,000,000 whatever plus infinity equal to, if everything got you the same answer, then it's like the math wouldn't matter, choice wouldn't matter, it wouldn't really be choice. Also, when I was coming back from my walk yesterday, I was thinking about one of the lives. Probably when, after I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go live and I'm going to do this." I didn't do it yesterday, um, and it was like we don't choose outcomes. Our choices lie in the decisions that we make, and we choose to do certain things or say certain things to get a certain outcome, but we don't truly choose that outcome. There's limited control that we have over the outcome and more control that we have over our decisions and our actions. If you let your past go, it doesn't mean that your past will let you go. Why does that read like a threat? Oh, okay. I didn't. When I saw the sun on the moon, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so gorgeous. Like, what could be a source of confusion? Like, there's clarity here, girl. This is like what's done in the dark come into the light type energy. You can't even see the sun; it's so bright. With this sun here, and with the fire, the play of fire and the destructiveness of fire, fire can play around and burn down a whole whatever, and that's just fire having a good time. If you let your past go, it doesn't mean that your past will let you go. That's big. I know what you did last summer energy, and I think a new one is like coming out soon, isn't it? Let go of your biases, though. Um, things are, because of the saturation. Let's say that Earth is going through a large, because of corn sweat, right? There's a lot of corn. There's enough corn that it releasing water causes a heat wave. So imagine how much corn there has to be to affect like multiple states in the US. Um, I mean, the corn exists in multiple states as well, but still, like, you know what I mean? Um, oh, the transition. Like things are in transition. That's what causes the, maybe during the transition, the boundary barrier is weaker, but a weakened barrier means like it saturates more easily. I feel like usually when I think of like a weakened barrier or a weakened membrane, you get more, but it's like here you get less because of maybe the physical integrity of the world and consensus reality, potentially. But even like with the mystical shaman, even with the temple path and the tear of the tear, I don't know if I said it, but there was a question or an energy of alternative communication methods. I don't think I said it. Maybe I did. Like just because certain channels are silent, it's like if you're used to using an office phone or a business line to communicate with the person who's in the air or out of office, but you still have their personal number. If you really need them, you could just reach out directly. For some people, the access is still there. And so the let go of your biases on this moon, it's again, it's like if it's one of those where if you're used to certain symbols, signs, synchronicities, if you're used to getting messages in a certain way and you're not, maybe there's a new method of communication. If you're open to it, it's like you'll see clearly. Um, what if you're open to it, you'll be able to communicate clearly, even in a time of um, like a blackout or something like that. So it's twofold. What's done in the dark is gonna, that's still wild. If you let your past go, it doesn't mean that your past will let you go. I still know what you did last summer. I know what you did 2 summers ago. I know what you did 3 summers ago. I know what you did 4 summers ago. I know what you did on June 25th, 1977. I really didn't think about that though. What's in the dark comes to light. I mean, I guess I probably should have, especially with that whole like um revelations and the shake and trust of like what something is advertised as versus what it actually does and how that affects how people feel. The sun and the moon said what's done in the dark is coming to the light. Let's move on. Who's next? The sun? I think that's the last one. Oh, this has been almost 2 hours. The sun. Maybe I should have did Luna and Soul. 150, 15, 15015. There we go. Now we're putting that zero somewhere. It was what, 5595, 55, 9, and 5 at the bottom of the Mystical Shaman Oracle cards. I know 5 is the beloved. 55, Taming the Wind. I don't remember what 9 is. All right. So I'm looking before and after 48. There aren't 48 Lenormand cards. So I'm not using the Mirror Truth Lenormand. I had this in mind because I was like, I think there's only like 30 something energy oracle cards. So all of these other oracle decks should have a corresponding number. I kind of love this though. There's a moon in the Angel of Balance. But because this is happening at night with pyramids and stuff like that, we're not meant to know what the Angel of Balance is balancing. If we were meant to know, there would be no need for like the silence or the weakened membrane or the, well, I don't know if the weakened membrane is a cause or an effect, or the energetic ethereal saturation. I don't know. I could post the poll, but it's fine. Has the energy and ether been, see, but I feel like, again, I feel like when people say, oh, the veil is thinning, they mean that like it's like really easy to get access to spiritual things or to be heard spiritually or whatever when the veil is thin. um but I guess that could be the same because of the saturation, but it's like things aren't escaping. It's like crowding this outer space. Like here is Earth, and then here is, here's Earth, and then around Earth you have like the atmosphere, and then you have like this, maybe the toroidal field of Earth, gravitational electromagnetic field of Earth, like this bubble around Earth, and this is like the energetic ethereal sort of field. Usually, kind of like a greenhouse gas effect, right? Usually, the energy goes into the greater cosmos and it floats all the way to wherever the divine lives in all of creation, right? Or wherever the seat, wherever the throne, wherever the temple of the divine is in the cosmos. But because of what, spiritual warming, because of awakening warming, I don't know. There's something, it's like things aren't necessarily making it past the field of Earth. But we keep wishing, praying, hoping, manifesting, affirming, working, doing whatever we're doing to make things happen. So, in the blackout, or in this period of things being kind of sort of like shut down, it just caused it to like crowd. And then we go, oh, the veil is like super thin right now because of the energetic like backlog or the energetic loudness of the noise, because things aren't like dispersing as they should. And so we put even more out, and then it causes it to get even more humid to the point where we can't sweat, or the sweat doesn't evaporate, and so it just sits on the body. Anyway, what is the Angel of Balance balancing? We don't know. 12 is a multiple, or 48 is a multiple of 12, though. So 4 trips to maybe that's the thing. Maybe after the 4th trip to the temple, the Angel of Balance is like, hey, look. And then you're like, oh my gosh, freaking out. Like, like you don't expect the statue to talk back when you talk to the statue, right? Like you don't again, it's like there's that internal knowing, there's the internal dialogue, but to have it like externally, it's like, whoa. and then maybe even a manifestation. You know what I mean? Take it as it resonates. If it resonates, if it don't resonate, don't take it. My brain operates in metaphor, okay? Not saying that somebody ain't getting a manifestation, but girl, imagine. Um, and then you'd be like, can I go with you? Or do I gotta stay here? And they'd be like, you know what? Sure, why not? It happened for Elijah. It happened for Enoch. It happened for some of the bodhisattvas or maybe even Orishas. Like it's happened throughout recorded history. If you want to come with, by all means. Like, yeah. So if all right, that's enough. Um anyway, I feel like this energy, there is a context that I see this playing out in that's super low hanging fruit that I'm pretty sure I've mentioned like aspects of, or even as it's like sort of like the image is completing without like saying it. Again, it brings like a context to mind. And I'm just like, what? Yeah, you heard that shuffle. So you know I'm looking for cards. There's so 17, 18, 19, or 17, 22, 19 came out in the Mirror Truth Lenore. Clean flip, clean fall. They all flipped. So obviously it's supposed to be 17, 18, 19. 18 is the number associated with the moon in the major arcana, but it's a 22 here. Instead of it being the number of the moon, it's the crossroad. Now, the crossroad we see on the pugilist, which is the Nine of Wands in the SKT Revelations edition, which we've been seeing a lot, and the Nine of Wands has been coming out nearly constantly. But again, with the anxiety around Mercury, there was the part that was like, there's the test of how well we really know someone and how far we're willing to take certain things. Right. There was a reason why Santa Claus didn't want, there's a reason why Santa Claus doesn't publish yearly the list of behaviors naughty and nice. And not just because it would be insanely long, but because that's not the point, right? And it makes it easier to see who's being nice for presents versus who's genuinely nice when there isn't any feedback until Christmas. You know what I mean? Also, two plus two is four. Four is half of eight. I don't know why I was like, four is half of eight, 18, maybe because the eight in that, but four is also four more than eight. 18 plus four is 22. Four is the emperor. And where was that? There was the whole, the one that inherits the throne. Cool. I don't know what I expected out of this. This is as much as I should have. I don't know. I don't know what I expect anymore. I feel like gone are the days, if there ever were any. Yeah, I guess that's it. Um, there's no card for the Angel of Balance. What is the Angel of Balance balancing? Who knows? It's too high for me to get a card in the Mirror Truth Lenormand, so with how I there's no way with the intention that I set out to answer this question. But because the moon is the sun, and the message of the moon was to let go of biases, and it was literally the whole, like, just because these lines of communication may be like garbled, warped, just because there may be a lot of interference over here, doesn't mean that there isn't a clear means of communication, a clear line of communication, and it doesn't mean that there are not those that don't have access to it and that are actively using it. Because mystical shamans be out there. Mystical shamans been out there, and with consensus reality being as it, like, with the level of relative saturation that there's always been someone, a lot of times, sometimes there's been someone or a group of people who have stood against the societal norms and who have caused major changes, regardless of what public opinion is or was, regardless of what was seen as ethically, morally, legally okay. There's always been those. And we have Uranus here in the shakeup and Mars. So it doesn't mean I can't use another deck because, hey, the moon says shake it up. So I'm going to shake it up. But I don't even know what deck I would go for. The sun is the angel of balance, and it's number 48. No, I think the magical dimensions, oracle cards, and activators, I'm pretty sure it goes up to 44. There's the mystical shaman that I could use that started this whole thing. I didn't think it would be a part of the reading. I was just like, oh, this will be something extra that I'm doing at the top of the video because corn sweat, lol. But the energy of corn sweat, and it was the moon, right? And the moon is the sun. So, sure, why not? I put it back in the box and everything. So, we're going to look before and after number 48. I think there are more than 48 cards. I'm pretty sure there are. There's at least 50. It goes at least into the 50s, if not 60s. As the deck is, and I'm going to shuffle it. I'm going to shuffle it. I didn't expect that to shuffle as easily. I thought that would have been mixed up a little bit more. Ooh, we're shuffling nice and easy today. All right, we'll give it one of these and a half split. We have the rattle, number 43, the sun, 53, and the hummingbird, 26. The rattle and the sun is so funny because it's like the sun is coming to shake things up, right? And it did because there aren't 48 Lenormand cards. Hey, Holly, how you doing? 26, the hummingbird. This is interesting. We saw the hummingbird. That was the animal. That was the animal for the Ace of Wands. It was the Ace of Wands, the vessel, and the hummingbird. The hummingbird was the oyster. The hummingbird was the thing inside of the oyster, and the hummingbird, you could say it's holding a pearl. There's like this drop of water or something that it's holding on to. We saw Margarita Preciosa, the new pearl, but this is almost because of the reflection in the water. It's making me think of the Time Master. I almost said Time Lord. It makes me think of the Time Master because there's a little thing on his chest, I believe. Cool. All right. All right. The rattle in the sun, shaking things up. I'll take it as confirmation that I was supposed to use this deck. Almost let it go. I would have let it go if the moon didn't say let go of biases. I would have just let the anxiety sit. You know what I mean? Looking for number 48. $26. So, oh my gosh. I was looking at those pyramids. I was like, it's something about those pyramids. Number one, the ancient ones. And one is the sun. One is also the sun in another deck. Maybe? I feel like it is because I was like, oh, this is number one, maybe not. The ancient ones. The sorcerer is number 48. And the tree of life, 58. Under the tree of life is the council. Before the ancient ones is earth. And before earth is the Andean cross. The Andean cross, earth, and the ancient ones. Because why not? Because of that rattle, I have there's a song from Disney's Hercules that's stuck in my head. The muses sing it, and it's that line like he had a plan to shake things up, and that's the gospel truth. Those two lines with the rattle. He had a plan to shake things up, and that's the gospel truth. That when they were talking about Hades' plan, that relied on the alignment. There was an alignment. In 18 years, precisely, the planets will align ever so nicely. The time to act will be at hand. Unleash the Titans, your monstrous band. Then the once proud Zeus will finally fall, and you, Hades, shall rule all. And he goes, yes, the Hades rules. A word of caution to this tale. Should Hercules fight, you will fail. And somebody's looking for a hero. And he wanted to be a true hero. He was, yeah, Disney's Hercules when he went to the temple. And he had a crap attack because Zeus, like, the statue started moving. Anyway, can you tell that I've seen that movie like one too many times? Wow, anyway, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Let's focus. Yeah, I'm not surprised. See, the question, okay, the ancient ones is here. The question that I had in my mind was when I like pulled the cards, um, there's a certain aspect to this oversaturation that feels not permanent. It feels like it's been taking place for a while. it feels like there's been some distance for a while, and maybe there's like the energy of transformation that is right now because of like there's a stress and a strain that's been put on things like for some time. And so I'm just like, because there was an impression of like it's been this way for a long time. So I'm just like, well, how long has it like been like this for? And then I see the moon with the pyramids. I'm like, girl, ancient Egypt that wasn't yesterday. That wasn't even 2020. That wasn't 2012. That was BCE. And then because like the deck that I was using was the Mirror Truth Lenormand. So I'm like, it's the mirror truth. Is there no mirror in this? Like, is there no mirror that exists to reflect this truth? Like these are all the questions that I'm just like having mentally. So I'm like, well, let me like try to get a few cards, I guess. But then I see the ancient ones here, and the sorcerer is looking at the ancient ones. And then the tree of life, like, and the tree of life, it's like the tree of life is number 58. Both of these exist outside of the purview of the mirror truth Lenormand. The only thing that exists inside is the ancient ones. But the ancient ones are so old, like it's not surprising that there isn't anything in modern, contemporary, whatever that would reflect a truth. We have archaeologists and they're educated assumptions and conclusions, but who's to say? Now we can look before and after the ancient ones, which is literally the only card we can. One is the rider. Wait. So before the rider is fish. Fish is a king. I can't tell what it's the king of. The king of diamonds, it looks like. And the child. King of diamonds, jack of hearts. And it's interesting. I saw the child in this deck, in the Mystical Shaman Oracle cards. I'm pretty sure it was after the card that was after. What was it? It was the moon, the sweat lodge, and the other card. It was like after a card. It was like twice after one of the cards. I saw the child, and I didn't mention it because I was like, I don't know, didn't think it was relevant. What's interesting? So, if we're talking about the ancient ones, a lot of the fish. I was gonna say a lot of fish have closer prehistoric ties than like birds and land animals because those are things that would have left the water. There could be some prehistoric fish that still exist, especially in the deep sea, like Marianas Trench or whatever. Who's to say? You know. And then it's like, do we even have fossils from some of them to know how old like they actually are? You know what I mean? Anyway, with the ancient ones, the fish, the child and fish. Fish being Pisces, being the boundary of this realm and the next, the energetic and the physical, and the child being freshly birthed, that for some time still kind of exists, are still that straddles the line between the natural and the supernatural. Right. It's like my kids see ghosts and all kinds of other stuff because they're so freshly alive. That sounds so just disgusting because they're so freshly alive. They still have ties to the energetic. Maybe I should have just left the angel of balance as it is. Um, I mean, the ancient ones and the tree of life is interesting because it's like, what is the angel of balance balancing? For the tree of life to come out, there were two trees, right? The tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The tree of life symbolizes eternal life and a sustained relationship with God, while the tree of the knowledge of good and evil represents disobedience and the consequences of choosing one's own understanding of good and evil over God's guidance. So Eve and subsequently, consequently, Adam chose their own understanding of good and evil over God's guidance. And that's what caused the whole the fault line. You could say that was the fault line. Um, and I guess that's because again, like what was that in the last one with the? I'm pretty sure it was the whole Santa Claus thing. Where like we know within our heart of hearts, within our soul, within our conscience, yeah, within our conscience, like where certain things fall in our alignment, and we can use like, well, it's not illegal, and according to this belief system, it's not this, and according to that, it's not this, or whatever. We can choose to stray further and further from alignment, and we can use anything that we want to justify it. And what's in alignment for another may not be for us. Um, that that is wild, though. I feel like that's high key a wild implication. For me to have the question of like, how far back does this energetic oversaturation go? And then for the tree of life to come out and to kind of sort of low key be like, since Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I mean, speaking of the ancient ones, like thematically our oldest ancestors, since our oldest ancestors on this planet, since like, the comfort in that would be like the world has been what the world has been for a very long time. And I would hazard a guess that no one currently alive is responsible for the things that happened hundreds of years ago. But people back in the day used to have like a really, really, really long lifespan, apparently. So who's to say that they're all gone? But if things have been like messed up since then, how do we fix it? I think because we have free will, we also have to want it to be fixed. Or you could say that enough of us have to want it to be fixed for consensus reality to change. Or there has to be significant enough pressure on consensus reality for consensus reality to be changed. Right? So going back to all of the trailblazing pioneers of yore, like the consensus was probably against them, but they had that pressure. They had that pressure to change it anyway. I don't know if the pressure necessarily within individuals, maybe localized, yes. But because the world is more interconnected than ever, and because we are watching more and more of the world than ever, it's like now instead of like localized changes, we're moving towards an energy of like sweeping globalized changes. And the pressure that's needed to change the entirety of the world rather than like a subset or a localized area is like significantly different. Right. And so if we're manifesting change, whatever that mechanism of change is, you could say there are certain like machinations of change. There are different ways to go about changing things, um, but on a certain scale. And again, like there has been worldwide days of manifesting peace and manifesting this and manifesting that worldwide since, to my knowledge, like 2020 at the very least. I'm sure there were many before, but with like social media being as big as it is and like the spiritual community having as much of a presence as it does on social media, it's easier to get people all over the world at the same time doing whatever. But our choice isn't in the asking. Our choice is in the doing, and it's in the decisions, and it's in the choices that we make and the actions that we take. And so, according to whatever mechanism of change, how does that pressure get built to the point where those changes can actually happen? Now, of course, me, Patrick's like, well, how bad does the world have to get for us to care enough about the world at large to be inconvenienced enough for changes to actually happen? How much do we have to suffer before we truly, genuinely care about one another enough to meet that Christ consciousness threshold that the age of Aquarius is bringing about? Because I don't know, I haven't read the entirety of the Bible, but I wonder if like Christ was ever like, oh, that's, I don't know those people, that's not my problem, or that's happening on the other side of the world, that's not my problem. Oh, this doesn't affect me, that's not my problem. Oh, well, as long as I make money and as long as my wallet benefits, then it's not my problem, you know? Because, like, is that Christ consciousness? Because from what I know, and I don't know much, no. Anyway, But maybe that's where pressure comes from. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is what gave Adam and Eve the ability to choose their own understanding of good and evil. Because there's been like a lot of alignment with the divine or the will of the divine, which leads to like the vessels receiving divine inspiration. Maybe as our understanding of good and evil tends closer to a divine understanding of good and evil, that's when the repercussions of that choice matter less. And according to what I hear from a lot of people, there is no good and evil. The divine doesn't recognize or establish good from evil because objectively there is no good and there is no evil. Good and evil are human constructs. So maybe when we all reach that point of there is no good and there is no evil, so I can do whatever I want to whoever I want. Or I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I almost had the idea of also maybe doing a second video with the outer planets, but using a different oracle deck. I like the energy oracle because it doesn't feel completely detached from lived life, right? And so using this for the personal planets, I was like, yeah. I feel like if I do it for the outer planets, I would have to do something more like, you know, anyway. So I guess it's interesting. It would be interesting with this connotation of the original sin, with the ancient ones and the tree of life. Um, it would be interesting to see what Lilith is like up to. And would that be Black Moon Lilith or would that be the asteroid Lilith? I'm almost leaning towards the asteroid Lilith because the moon came out with the sun. That's complete and total elimination. Or, I mean, hey, that could still be Black Moon Lilith. Right? I don't know. Maybe I read this like TFY HF no. I love doing this. Hey, Google, flip a coin, please. Head. So, no. What's another way to interpret this? Um, should I reshuffle this? Yeah, I'll reshuffle this one too. Why not? Why not? Am I going to reshuffle all of these? I'm not going to reshuffle these. Where's this little? Oh, here it is. Because the clarifiers are the clarifiers. Maybe setting. I know I've heard of. I don't. Well, I guess I am supposed to look at this a different way. I don't know. Some of the celestial bodies, I'm like, okay. Some of them, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, and I guess technically, this is an energy of something that is far removed, right? like, I don't know. I'll be listening to an astrology person talk about astrology, and they'll be like, nobody alive has ever experienced this transit. And I'm like, yeah, well, nobody alive has ever lived today either before today happened. You know what I mean? It's like there are many things that we're all experiencing every single day for the first time. Um and so, like, I get it on one hand, but on another hand I'm like, yeah, but like, you know what I mean? Each day is an opportunity to do something that we've never done and to make the most of it, right? And with Pluto and Neptune and Uranus being so far out there, like, unless our lifespans are hundreds of years old, every single day with Pluto is something that no one's ever experienced before. I don't know. I know, like, Setna is supposed to be changing signs for the first time in like thousands of years or something. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe my brain, like, that's just a time scale that's too big. It's too big for my brain. My brain is too small. My brain is too small and my vision is too limited. Um, but that made it, let go of biases is what the moon said. So maybe. And it also said just because you leave the past behind doesn't mean the past left you behind. Ooh, see? But that could be, yeah, anyway. I don't know. I get iffy with a lot of stuff. All right, let's cut this. The lady, the gentleman in the tower. Ooh, she's giving Rapunzel. She's giving, what was her name? Psyche and Eros. See you later, Holly. Or Holly. See you later, Kirsty. Have a good night. What time is it? Oh, it's late. Thanks for stopping by. It was nice to see you again. Tegami. So now we have the letter and the clover. The letter and the clover beyond, before and after the writer. I'll pull the writer out. Now, how do I reimagine this with the letter and the clover? We have the ancient ones in the tree of life and the angel of balance. I mean, maybe I got stuck on the wrong part of it. Hyper focus on maybe not the most important detail. Or maybe I didn't take it far enough. You know what I mean? See, the letter and the clover, it takes me back to one way that the tear in the temple path came up, which was that, like, sometimes it's in what isn't said that provides some kind of comfort. Because the letter is, especially with the book, the letter is like a page in the book. But like, there's only so much of a feeling or so much of one's experience that can be contained in a letter, in letters that are exchanged. And, excuse me, sometimes the letter may not even survive the transit, or the letter may not reach the person it's meant to. Like, sometimes people hide letters from people, and then they'll be like, yeah, and they'll be like, why has this person never written me? Like, I thought that they loved me. Meanwhile, the letters are being held by somebody else, and they're just left to believe whatever they're left to believe. But the clover is like luck. right? And so it's like even getting the letter or even the little bit that is revealed or even the little bit that is done is a huge boon. Um, this it came out recently within the past few lines of like karmic debt being forgiven. Yeah, because there was like a fresh transgression. Um, Karmic debt is forgiven. So if we react to um, respond to if we make a certain choice or decision after karmic debt is forgiven, then we incur fresh karma. It's like a fresh transgression, right? If the past is forgiven, but we transgress again, then we are now the originator of whatever. Why this? Because it's the angel of balance. Sometimes, though, we may not necessarily know that it's been forgiven. She's almost sort of, it almost has like an Emancipation Proclamation, Juneteenth type energy, right? The Emancipation Proclamation went out and it freed the slaves. But the slave owners didn't tell their slaves that they were free. They're like, we're going to keep getting this slave labor and we're going to keep living in yesterday for as long as we can. And Juneteenth celebrates like the freeing of the last of the slaves, like the last of the people who were informed that they were freed a long time ago by the Emancipation Proclamation. And it didn't matter, like, operationally, the slave masters obviously didn't have to recognize it, but legally, they were freed. And so maybe knowing itself, like receiving the letter in and of itself, is a huge boon. Even if there is all of the, like, what does life mean for a person born from generations of slaves? Like, how do they navigate in the world? Like, what skills do they have? And then they say, what, however many anchors and like a donkey or whatever. How many people actually got that? You know what I mean? Um, Now it's like this whole new world that they have to navigate with little to no training, knowledge, information. But at least, and it's not in a dismissive way, like at least they have their freedom now. But then if you look at how different laws sort of came about without being bogged down by the history of it, just knowing sometimes is enough. Because if we don't know, then of course we continue to operate as if things were what they always were. And so maybe that's also part of the deliberation of this angel of balance. Why Leo season? I don't know. I guess we'll have to live life and find out why Leo season. Um, but part of this balance is also like not only is it informing people of a change in balance, in order for balance to truly exist, there also has to be some kind of reparations, for lack of a different term, reparation and preparation. Or else it would be too easy to just fall into old patterns, habits, and cycles. So maybe that's why things, especially lately, are oversaturated because we're asking for a lot. And every year, every few months, every event, every day, we're asking for more. As our priorities change and as we find out more, and as the level of discomfort sort of builds enough for us to question long-standing practices and beliefs, right? The world isn't what it was. And as much as we wanted for things to go back to normal, we also realized that there was a lot of what was normal that we don't actually want. But maybe we didn't think anything could be done, right? How many people were told that their work wasn't remote? It's not possible to do this job remote. And then how many people started working remotely? And then how many people who went remote got the return to work orders, RTO, return to office? And now they're like, this is the same job I was doing remote, right? Like, or people were like promised, told that their position was fully remote just to get an RTO. It's like too much has changed to go back. And we know like our priorities have changed. Our understanding of what's possible has changed. And how does the divine meet us or get us to that point, to those places in ways that are sustainable? But I feel like this energy kind of came out recently too. We saw part of it in the you better we saw part of it in like when Santa Claus was like, don't say anything. And that was like because there's gonna be a full scale like solution to help ease that transition. You can't just remove one thing and not replace it with another. Again, that's kind of sort of the chaos that we saw and the massive confusion that was behind the lid. And we're trying to subvert the chaos. The angel of balance is like trying to subvert the chaos. And it's not an easy solution. I mean, for the divine, it may be, but for people, it's not. And ultimately, we are the ones that receive the things that we manifest and ask for and pray for. And fulfillment goes beyond instant gratification and easy solutions. Fulfillment stretches long into tomorrows, beyond today. You could also say the clover in the letter is a promise. And then we just have to trust that the divine is doing what it is that the divine has promised us it will do. Well, there you go. Almost 3 hours. Okay. I'm glad I asked Google to flip a coin because I did. I got kind of lost. I didn't get lost on that last one. It's like I wasn't getting to like the point. I wasn't getting to like the balance of it all. More so like if this goes all the way back then and again, that could be metaphorical. It doesn't literally have to go back before even ancient civilization as we know. Um, it could be just the level of like foundational shift that has to occur for us to see the changes that we want. It could be simple asks with very deep repercussions and consequences or changes that need to be made, right? An entire system sometimes have to change to make seemingly easy accommodations, right? So, like for example, let's say that a company is moving from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week. Company, country, whatever. Do the number of hours change? Is that 4 10s? Because in the move from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week, it's supposed to be a reduction of hours from 40 to 32. You're not making up those hours on different days. They just kind of sort of like go away. Well, with all of the timekeeping programs and all of the remuneration organizations and software, how do you register 32 hours as like full time? And if you register 32 hours at full time, does like schooling and education change? Because teachers work too. So are teachers gonna get a 4-day work week instead of a 5-day work week? And so for countries where an educational week is 5 days instead of four, is that now like 4 days in education? And now you have to worry about the like child care, now that they're potentially getting one less day, now that the weekend is like 3 days instead of 2 days. And like parents, like, do parents get an extra day, or does it, it impacts and affects more and more and more than we realize sometimes, some things. And in order for a transition to be as smooth as possible, time and attention and care really has to be given to those details. Now this is like big Virgo energy. um and like, it's complicated and there aren't organizations and structures in place to make this transition possible isn't necessarily what we want to hear. Or if we don't know what's happening in the background, it can be easy to think that nothing's happening, which is why this letter that we received, that things are changing and things are happening, even if it feels like bogged down and slow, that's why it can be this huge boon. But also with the letter, it could be like, if you know, right? For example, low hanging fruit, let's say, I'm trying to be as non specific as possible. So let's say that in a bid to make something happen prematurely, or in a grab for something, there were these huge sweeping changes that were made. Unfortunately, though, a lot of things fell through the cracks. And legally, some things may not hold up because of how much fell through the cracks. Now, if and you can conduct yourself appropriately to take advantage of someone who was trying to take advantage of others. And hey, if that's how it shakes out, that's how it shakes out. You know what I mean? Type energy. But again, with the letter, it's like, if you're in the know, then like, but if you don't know, you wouldn't know. That's the danger of cutting corners and rushing sometimes. But when you don't think that whoever's impacted knows, it's like, when people operate beyond their authority, assuming slash hoping that you don't know that they're operating beyond their authority and that you don't have the power to call them out on it, then it's like, you can't do this. And they're like, blah blah blah, and you're like, well, I know that you can't do this. And then they like cede whatever, right? Type energy. Yeah. Anyway, cool. Let's flip another coin because I'm feeling good about that. Hey Google. Hey Google. Flip a coin, please. Heads again. No again. Okay. This is the last time. I'm gonna do it one more time and see if something different comes out. I was feeling good about that. Maybe I should have kept all the cards out to see how it, or maybe it's just not over. We'll see. I'm getting hungry, and it's almost 3 hours. I gotta end this. The Heart and the Storks came out. 24 is Heart of the Sky, is Adjacent Possibilities, and then there's the Storks. Love that energy with the clouds, the fox, and the moon at the bottom of the deck. Now we have the scythe and the lady. And the lady is still looking at the gentleman. The lady and the gentleman are still looking at each other. But the scythe is right here on the other side of the rider. Um, as gorgeous as that energy is, I feel like this just points to it's not be careful what you wish for because you just might get it, but it kind of is. It's kind of more so wishes may bring problems such that you regret them better that though than to never get them. It's more that than be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. Excuse me. It feels like for as much good news and as much of a boon and as much as whatever this angel of balance is working towards that's bringing us what we want, it's also going to require an adjustment. And so there may be things that we lose. There may be comforts that we had, or whatever those comforts may be, that we kind of sort of lose a little bit. And maybe it's in dealings and negotiations and compromises, like behind the scenes, in order to make something happen. And then it's like, well, ultimately, we're like in a better position than we were, or something is like ultimately good. And there were always going to be complications if something were to happen. The ring and the ship. The ring and the ship, where we had the scythe between the scythe at the back of the lady that was looking at the man. Um, there's the ring again. We saw the ring. It was the shaman, the fault line in the ring. Yeah, I feel like the first time maybe I was focused more on the like, you know, the antiquity of it all. The second time was focused more on like the positive. This time it's a mention of the the changes and transitions and the inconveniences and the things that we may lose as things are coming into balance. And because of general inequity or inequality, some will have more to lose than others, right? Like, let's say that someone is used to working like 70-hour, okay. Let's say someone's used to working like 50 to 60-hour weeks. And so they have like fat checks, like real fat checks, like stuffed with overtime. And so in a transition to a 32-hour work week, they lose a lot more because now with the new distribution of work and with like new labor laws, they're not overworking people to the point that they used to. So in an effort to make things more like equitable and fair and livable, it harms the person who was making a living off of working themselves to the bone. Like now they don't get any overtime anymore. And that kind of happened. I experienced some of that secondhand last year. There were people who were used to working a lot of overtime, and then there was no overtime to be had. But they were living at their overtime threshold, and overtime was consistent enough; it was reliable. But then it wasn't, and again, like it caused some people more harm than others, moving to a traditional work time. Some people loved not having overtime anymore because that meant that they could spend more time with their families or doing whatever else they were doing. It bit into the pockets of some others. Um, and it feels like now this is talking a little bit more about, like, again, with the angel of balance, things are going to be balanced both ways. So don't, not to tell anybody how to feel and how to process anything that they're going through, but it's like be cognizant of what we gain when we also like lose certain things, because maybe things weren't in balance for a while, and so it plays both sides as they come into balance. Hey Google, flip a coin. Tails. Woo! Finally, we got there. All right. I was feeling real complete after that one. So, okay. All right. And it's the angel of balance. So I guess I shouldn't expected it to be as easy. And especially, too, the only card that I could clarify in this was the ancient ones, because the other two have numbers that go beyond the mirror truth. And so even with this being the mirror truth, again, it was that energy of like, it didn't feel like there was a mirror that could accurately reflect the truth of the sun. Otherwise, it would have been a card that fit the paradigm, right? But it wasn't. And so there are like multiple mirrors that we can use to get an approximation of the truth. Multiple mirrors, superposition, and like a wee bit of imagination, and we can kind of sort of get there. Goodness. All right. It's time for me to go. I still got to go work out today. It's been like 3 hours. Thank you all for those who stopped by, for stopping by, for chatting. I know I was more in the cards today, but it's like it already takes 3 to 4 hours without me engaging or being more engaged. And I'll lose my train of thought, and I'm already bad enough. Anyway, I'm going to get all the final cards off camera. I'm just going to shuffle these decks and put them away because, I mean, I guess if I'm going to do it, I can do it really quick. I'm just like not going to interpret because it's already been 3 hours, and now it's 2:59. Yeah, so if this is where we part because the video is basically over, I hope you have an amazing whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey and what you find. And I hope you peace where you can get it, ease where you need it, and compromise when you have to. Um, Into the Woods. I don't remember the name of the song, but it's the one part with Cinderella when she goes to the tree because she wants to go to the ball. It's after Quiver and Shiver Little Tree, Silver and Gold throw down on me. It's before that. Um, it's the part ask the tree and you shall have your wish. That specifically is the line that popped into my head. I wish I could find it. Quiver and shiver, little tree, silver and gold throw down on me. Do 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 do. I should rewatch Into the Woods, but only Act One. I don't have to watch Act Two. I don't. Silver and gold throw down on me. The Luminous Warrior. I know it's like if what you wish is what you want, then make a wish. Ask the tree, and you shall. But it's like if you know what you want and you know what you want to wish for, and and you're sure, then make the wish. If you wish is what you want, then make the wish. Quiver and shiver, little tree, silver and gold rain down on me. What is it? It's a line from Grimm's fairy tale. What? I didn't know. I mean, I guess I should have known. I just known it was Into the Woods. Into the Woods. I was looking for the lyrics for the song. Cinderella at the Grave lyrics. Is it literally titled Cinderella at the Grave? I've been good enough and kind, mother, doing only what I learned from you. Why the new I left behind, mother? Is there something more that I must do? Do you wish? Are you certain what you wish is what you want? If you know what you want, then make a wish. Ask the tree, and you shall have your wish. There it is. Do you know what you wish? Are you certain what you wish is what you want? If you know what you want, then make a wish. Ask the tree, and you will have your wish. No. There are tiny lines. Now, what that other song is in my head. Oh, it's the baker's wife is singing it to the baker when he's like, I would have to lie to this child to get what I want. And she's like, it doesn't matter. Lie. People lie. That cow isn't worth anything anyway. If we can get what we want, then just lie to the kid. He's like, that's why he left you at home. That's why he knew that. Uh-uh. She's like, we all tell tiny lies. He's like, would you have me take advantage of that boy? She's like, yes. For me to get pregnant, yes. For me to get my baby, yes. I would have you do worse than lie. He's like, are we to get our wish through trickery and deceit? And she's like, yes. She's like, everybody don't got a tree that they could go make a wish to, okay? If we got to lie to some kids to get a cow and a hood and some hair and a shoe, then it's what we'll do. Sometimes it's what we believe. We do what we believe we must. All right, so In Dream is going to be the first card back. I'll show the cards, but I am not interpreting because this is supposed to be a real quick final card. I'm only doing it live because I'd have to do it anyway. But the video is over. It is over. Excuse me. Clever and sugar little tree, silver and gold rain down on me. All right, 3, 2, 1. Oh, oh, oh! Goodness! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh, this card got obliterated, and no, I'm rolled all over it. Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness! Oh no, I'm always gonna know what this card is. Maybe it can be fixed. No, it's a decrease. Oh my goodness. Number 36. Bottom of the deck is number 39. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Eve. This is gonna bother me. That's the card that came out. 39 is the card at the bottom of the deck. I will read it though. 36 is Dream, Earth Material World. Talk about your dreams. The past cannot be changed. The future is yet in your power. A quote by Mary Pickford. The past cannot be changed. The future is yet in your power. Which is interesting because you can let go of the past, but the past may not let go of you. But even if the past doesn't let go, your power still lies in the future. Sometimes we can make, well, we can't necessarily make the past right, but we can do better moving forward. She probably like, when you going to the gym? If what you wish is what you want, then make a wish. All right. 3. Oh, oh. 2, 1, and a cut. Bottom of the deck is the Rainmaker. Top of the deck is the Coyote. The Coyote and the Rainmaker. 1242. Interesting. What I like about the Coyote and the Rainmaker is you may think that one thing doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the other, right? If you shake a rain stick, why would it rain? And if the Rainmaker does her dance, why would it rain? Oh, it just does, right? Just because we don't understand something doesn't mean it's like treacherous and nefarious and whatever. It's like the trickster is a trickster because we don't understand. Sometimes the trickster is genuinely a trickster. Sometimes it's just something that we don't understand. And in our lack of understanding, we label it. Bottom of this deck, we have the Thinking Man. Top of the deck is Patience. Patience. Count, and the Thinking Man with the woman holding a coin is behind it. That's interesting. The woman holding the coin is behind the Thinking Man, right? The woman hold and in Patience, it's like this angel holding a clock that almost looks like the coin that the woman is holding. Oof, I'm hungry. And I still need to go to the gym. Gimnasio? El gimnasio necesito. How do you say go? I don't remember how to say go. Oh yeah, that was the bottom of the deck. I'm like, necesito. How do you say to go? How can how can I not remember to go? Necesito to go al gimnasio, to the gym. Gym me gym me मुझे gym में चाहिए. No, मुझे gym जराहा चाहिए. I don't know how to say verbs. I know how to say nouns. Anyway, it's fine. Immediately, steadfastness with divine support at the bottom of the deck. Divine support and steadfastness. She is giving mystical shaman pressure. Steadfastness holds that pressure. The divine support can respond. It moves to the top of the list because it cuts through the noise. It's consistent enough amidst the sea of ever changing desires and demands. And again, it's what naturally happens when we are ruled by the most immediate and most pressing thing. It's immediately pressing, so it's understandable. No shame in it, but it's just to be mindful of all that exists beyond so that we don't limit ourselves from the more that we can have. Three and a cut. Bottom of the deck is the cave. Number 32. Top of the deck is the forest. She's tunnel. Or it's just in my mind. It's interesting that there's this clearing here in the forest, and we see the eyes in the cave. Take it as it resonates. If it resonates, if it don't resonate, don't take it. Now we'll get the alchemy. That did not shuffle. One. There we go. One, two. Oh gosh, not again. Not again, please. I've already lost one card. I can't bear another. The uncreated Encreatum fell out, which is the shape of a tear, interestingly enough. Bottom of the deck is Cauda Pavanis. The Peacock's Tail, 55. Take it as it resonates. If it don't resonate, don't take it. What do you see? And last but not least, Mirror Truth Lenormand. Oh, oops. Oh gosh. This reminds me. I didn't look on the chest of the mystical shaman. It's something that looks like this. And with the reflection of the dewdrop in the hummingbird was giving me that energy. Just make sure I got all the cards. Yep, the side is still on the floor. I knew a few cards fell. Oh, cool. We got one clean flip and one clean fall. Oh, two fell. The house, the clouds, and the garden. 4, 6, 20. We have 4, 6, 8 in the Dream Oracle. The house, the clouds, and the garden. Bottom of the deck is the writer. The house, the clouds, and the garden is interesting. She's giving Jack and the Beanstalk, right? Jack, which was the guy who was selling the cow. Jack goes up the beanstalk, finds the house on the clouds, and steals from the giant. And then when the giant is chasing him, they cut the beanstalk, and one of the giants dies, and then his wife comes seeking vengeance, and that's Act 2, spoiler alert. That's why I don't watch Act 2 of Into the Woods. I watch Act 1 and then I turn it off. We leave on the happy ever afters. So I hope you all have been amazing. Whenever you see this, I hope you're acting on to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path, journey, and way you find, that's all the cards put away. And I'll see you next time. See how that rhymed?